So Father Norton woke up on Sunday morning and realizing it was an exceptionally beautiful and sunny early spring day, he decided he just had to play golf. So he told the associate pastor that he was feeling sick and convinced him to say Mass for him that day. So as soon as the associate pastor left the room, Father Norton headed out of town to a golf course about 40 miles away. And this way he knew he wouldn't accidentally meet anyone he knew from his parish. So setting up on the first tee, he was alone, and after all, it was Sunday morning and everybody else was in church. So about this time, St. Peter looks down, leans over to God while looking down from the heavens and exclaimed, "You're not going to let him get away with this, are you?" So God sighed and said, "No, I guess not." So just then, Father Norton hit the ball, and it shot straight toward the pin, dropping just short of it, rolled up, and fell into the hole. It was a 420-yard hole-in-one. Now, those of you that are golfers, that's amazing. So St. Peter was astonished, and he looked at God and asked, "Why did you let him do that?" God smiled and replied, "Who's he going to tell?" You saw that coming, didn't you? Felt good to have some spring humor since today, I know Angela and I said we didn't care if there were 5 inches of snow on the ground. We were going to dress like spring today. So happy spring and happy Palm Sunday. So here we are, and this Sunday is the beginning of what many Christians call Holy Week. And so according to the writers of the New Testament Gospels, this is the culmination of Jesus' 3-year ministry. And so throughout this week, the Bible tells of Jesus' activities and interactions with people, and it eventually led to his crucifixion on Friday. And so as we know today on Palm Sunday, that this is the day that Jesus triumphantly entered into Jerusalem riding on a donkey, waving your palms. So wave your palms. So metaphysically, palms mean our realization of our inner strength. Yes. So as Jesus walked into Jerusalem, people waved palms, and they also laid them on the ground. So that's just a realization as you hold your palms today, just a realization of your inner strength, because you are very strong. So, all right. So he had this triumphant entrance into Jerusalem, but the sentiments around Jesus from the scribes and Pharisees was not very good. There were 5 things recorded in the Bible by the writers that Jesus did that really ticked them off, really pushed it over the edge. And here's what they were. Jesus had cast evil spirits from a distressed man. He ate a meal with a Pharisee without conforming to the custom of washing before the meal. He set aside the restrictions of what a Jew might eat. He healed a sick woman on the Sabbath, and he raised Lazarus from the dead. That really did him in. So Jesus comes into Jerusalem knowing he was in big trouble. And his disciples begged him not to do it. And he said, "No, I'm going to do it." And the symbolic representation of him riding in on the donkey, donkeys' personalities are rather willful and stubborn and erratic. And what that demonstrates is how Jesus sitting on the donkey, that he had mastery of those parts of his own personality. Yeah. That his will had taken over. Not willfulness, but will. So Jesus was basically saying as he came into Jerusalem, I am open, I am surrendered to my greatest transformation. So He had a very busy week, so he comes into Jerusalem, and he did a lot this week. He cleansed the temple of the money changers. You remember that? He cursed the fig tree. People still can't get over that one. He continues to teach, using several parables. He continues to denounce the scribes and Pharisees. He foretells of the destruction of the temple. He has an infamous Last Supper with his disciples. He's betrayed by Judas. He goes to the Gethsemane to pray and is arrested and taken to the high priest. And Peter denies him 3 times. He's brought before Pilate, and he's crucified between 2 thieves. So here we are. So he's crucified on Friday because one of his own betrays him. One of his own betrays him for 30 pieces of silver, which in that day was just pennies. Nothing. And so Jesus has been called the ultimate scum. I mean, he has been called every name in the book. And so today I'd like to kind of breathe a little new life into Judas because, okay, we have 12 powers. Remember, we teach the 12 powers here in Unity. Does anybody know what Judas represents? Judas represents life. Yes, our youth know this. Judas represents life. So why in the world, since he supposedly caused Jesus' demise, how can he represent life? Well, that's what I'd like to talk about today. So the story was all the 12 were at the Last Supper, the Passover meal, and Jesus said that one of his 12 would betray him. And Judas responded with a question, "Surely not I, Rabbi." Judas had already met with the chief priests and said he would turn Jesus over to them, again, for 30 pieces of silver. So Jesus leaves the Passover meal, goes to the Garden of Gethsemane to pray, where he asked to have that cup taken from him. But he surrendered, and he did what was his to do. And the authorities came, and Judas revealed to them who Jesus was. Judas revealed to them who Jesus was by giving him a kiss. And they take him away to be prosecuted and convicted. So, Judas. His name is the Greek form of the Hebrew Judah, which was an honorable Jewish name. And supposedly, this is the story about Judas. Judas was the treasurer. Judas was intelligent, level-headed, and sophisticated. He was in charge of the finances and provisions of the ministry. So he was very trusted. He was a very close friend to Jesus. And like all the other disciples, he had given up everything he had to follow him. He was with Jesus for 3 years. No one suspected that Judas would be the one to betray him. But apparently Judas was a visionary. He was known for his strength and his dedication. But as you recall, if you're familiar with the stories surrounding these events, that the disciples still didn't quite get it. They were still trying to understand what Jesus really was saying when he talked about a new kingdom, because they really thought it was about an actual kingdom on earth that Jesus was going to rule, because they were all wanting to be free of Roman rule. They wanted Jesus to take over and establish his kingdom here on earth. But remember, Jesus talked about a kingdom of heaven, which we know is a state of consciousness. Yeah. A state of consciousness, a way of being and living and expressing as we choose it. It was not a political kingdom. And so Judas might have thought as he kissed Jesus that Jesus would fight back, that he would use his power to overcome them, to defend himself. But that's not what he did at all. He just wanted Jesus to take a stand in the way that he thought he should take a stand. And so what did Judas do after the betrayal, after Jesus was killed? It was that he hung himself because he could not bear the grief. All right, So this sounds very heavy and very, yes, very shameful and very guilty. So let's take it deeper, okay? Because remember, the Bible is a record of our spiritual evolution. It's just that song that was sung, that comes from the Hebrew Bible. So, we evolve. And so, as we read a Bible story, let's look at the characters and let's look at who we are, who they remind us of in our life, how we can use that story to support us on our own spiritual journey. Okay, so let's take a look at Judas. All right, so my question to you is, like the seeds were planted in meditation, who has been a Judas in your life? Who is that person or people that has abandoned you, that you have entrusted and they have violated that trust possibly? That who has maybe not seen you, heard you, and you thought, of all people, I know you know me. Why are you turning on me? Why have you hurt me? Why have you caused me pain? Okay? So is there anyone in this room that has not had a Judas? Yeah, I doubt it. And if you think back on those people, now, granted, you might still be working with it because sometimes it is a process in our life, folks, to forgive, to let go, to not hold it anymore as a heavy burden in our heart. But I tell you what, I can remember in high school having several experiences of a Judas. And so I have invited 3 of our teens to share their experiences of a Judas. And so what I asked them to share was, what happened? How did you feel? And what spiritual principle have you used to move through it? Can we learn from these young people? Absolutely.
To protect their privacy, the sharing by the youth has been omitted from this recording.
Wow. I know I don't really need to say anything else. So this is the opportunity, folks, that we have, I think, every day, but especially at Easter, because I think sometimes we can focus on, I know in traditional circles there's a lot of focus around the crucifixion, but I just really want us to focus on rising strong. Rising strong and having an awareness of the edges in our life that we're still working with. You know what I mean, the growing edges. Whether it's an experience you've had with a person, whether it's something that you're working with, sometimes we can be a Judas with ourselves. Absolutely. And so I just wanted to shed light on the character of Judas, because Judas represents life in the 12 powers. Judas is also the color red, which is that root chakra of grounding. When that is free and open, we're grounded. We know what we are, who we are. We celebrate the past. We know that it's made us who we are today in terms of our knowing. Let's celebrate it if we can get to that point and be gentle with ourselves along the way. So this Easter, we are rising strong. And so what I invite you to do is to come on Good Friday and actually work with this week. Just work with this whole idea of, first of all, an awareness. Who's been a Judas in your life? How has it felt for you? Let these beautiful teens model. And what's a spiritual principle that you can take into this experience that will help you know more deeply what you are? See, that's the whole point, folks. It's all about our expansion. It's all about our deepening. That's why we come here on Sunday mornings. That's why we're in community, to support us in knowing more fully what we are, so that we can be out there and we can be the love, the light, the strength, the wisdom that we are. But first, we feel it in here. We know it in here. And it will bring so much joy and strength and wisdom and life to our life. So come this Friday, work with this week. Are you on board? Are you here? Are you willing? I just thank you for your courage. It will support you so deeply. So let's affirm the truth together. I honor the Judas experiences in my life by understanding the ways they have propelled me toward a greater awareness and expression of my true nature. And so it is.